is, you may be shocked to hear this, but Angry Birds Evolution is actually probably one of the better games of the month. Dare I say it, maybe even the best. It's definitely not the same thing as Angry Birds. It's an RPG with a sort of slingshot-oriented system that seems really weird when you first play it, and then you're like, oh, an RPG but Angry Birds. It does make really good sense, and it does make for really good battles as well. As you evolve your birds, you keep gaining more skills, and it's pretty self-explanatory, actually. You get to battle other players too, and in some ways it kind of feels like Clash Royale when playing another player, but it's obviously very different still. It's a very unique take on this sort of a game, and I think in order to fully understand it, you need to play it. And it is worth your time. This is going to be one that I think a lot of different kinds of people are going to enjoy, because it gives you a lot of different things, and it doesn't mess any of them up. It does a good job at pretty much everything it sets out to do, and setting out to merge Angry Birds with several different types of games and make something that's coherent is not an easy thing to do. Number 9 is Touchdowners, which I can best describe to you as stupid football, and while that may sound bad, it's not. Oh my god, this game is so fun. The controls are very simple. You just press which direction you want your football players to flop in, and you compete in sort of an organized chaos to get into the end zone and touch the football down on the ground. If you manage to do that with the ball in your hand, you win. And like I said, it looks ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. But if you want to talk about games as means of having fun, you do not get a more instantaneous good experience than this type of a game. I'm guessing it had to have been a mistake too, because it doesn't seem like something you just come up with. Seriously, it's so much fun. Play it. Number 8 is Laser Kitty Pow Pow, which is kind of like one of those arcade shooting games where you have enemies coming at you from all directions, except much weirder. I mean, this is basically like an arcade game that could have existed a long time ago if arcade machines had a little bit more power. It's one of those games where it kind of missed its era. This would have been more at home in the 80s when arcade machines couldn't handle anything like this. Luckily, people are being open to these type of experiences again, because this is fun as hell. It's, again, very stupid. Maybe not as stupid as Touchdowners, but still pretty stupid. But I'm saying that in the most fond possible of ways. This is a chaotic, fast-paced game that really rewards you for continuing to make it further and further, boosting your weapons, giving you huge, ridiculous lasers, and actually allowing you to craft cats. Yes, crafting the cats. Like I said, it's dumb, but it's the good kind of dumb. Number 7 is Mordheim Warband Skirmish, which is an adaptation of the Mordheim tabletop game. It's basically a turn-based strategy game played in a multiplayer arena. It's a game with permadeath and permanent injury as well, and you need to keep that in mind because a lot of mobile games don't do this kind of thing. It is much more in the area of a hardcore game where you can put in a lot of work and lose everything. I would say for somebody accustomed to the more arcade nature of a mobile game, this is probably going to be a little bit jolting, but it is one of those games that is definitely worth it to give a shot, because if you do get into it, this is something that has a lot of depth that you can go beyond just this game. And I will say that I do think this game does Warhammer justice. Number 6 is on the total opposite end of the spectrum. Bouncy Hoops is a time waster, but it's a very good one. It's essentially just a physics-based basketball hoop shooting game. Not like competitive basketball game, not like horse. It's literally like you tap, it manipulates the ball. The point is to get as many hoops in a row as you can. That's it. Now that sounds really, really simple, and it in all actuality is, but as the hoops get higher, it does get harder, and the retro graphics and sound somehow manage to make this significantly more satisfying as you play it. This is one that is definitely going to make a home on my phone, because if I have a couple minutes, I'm gonna play this. It's a hell of a lot of fun. Number 5 is The Mummy Dark Universe Stories, which I'm gonna go ahead and say the movie, not so great. Had a couple of good parts, but Nevertheless, they did make a graphic novel that is at least somewhat interesting, that actually does a decent job of continuing the story of the movie and maybe even being a little bit more interesting on its own. It is a choose-your-own-adventure thing, so it's not literally just a graphic novel. There is an element of you chart your own course, but it has a good art style, it has good writing, and I would say that pretty much better than the movie. That's not saying much, but it is actually a pretty good interactive story. Number 4 is Asphalt Street Storm Racing, which is a drag race game. I'm not going to call it a simulation because it's not, but it is a really good single and multiplayer arcade drag racing game. I mean, I'm not going to even bother with the story because frankly they haven't done a racing game with a good story yet on any platform, period. But as far as the mechanics go, this is a really enjoyable game. It requires quick reflexes, it's got pretty graphics, it's actually different enough while not being totally foreign, and has a great variance in racing courses, giving you Paris, Hong Kong, New York, just a lot of different places that make it feel like you're always doing something different in the game, which is very good. Between the multiplayer, the single player, the upgrades and customizations, if you're looking for a new racer to try, this is probably the one you should try. I mean, again, unless you're looking for a simulation, which it's not. However, on the arcade ends of things, this is definitely the best semi-realistic racing game this month. Number 3 is Sup Multiplayer Racing, which is great. However, it is not just a true-to-life racing game. This is somewhat of a platformer as well as a racing game, and also revolves quite a bit around battling as opposed to just racing. Now, Sup Racing also has a track editor, which is great. This is actually a really fun game. It's not the same kind of stupid fun with some of the other games that I talked about on this list, but although it's not really anything like Mario Kart, I found myself liking it in the same way I like Mario Kart. Just kind of that, hey, this is a fun game. I don't really care what's real and what's not in it. It's that type of a game, and it really works. And it helps that it looks pretty cool too. Number 2 is Pixel Worlds, which is very much a descendant of Minecraft and platforming combined. Except they do actually bring you some interesting stuff. It's not just building and finding resources, there's actually an economy where people farm resources or mine resources and sell them. There's also competitive platforming races and a massive amount of customization of your character so that you know it's you. Now this is a pretty expansive game in all honesty. There's a lot to do in it, and there's quite a few people playing it, so you're never really alone. It's definitely a good shot. If you're looking for something like this on your phone this month, this is where to go. I have a feeling it'll be around a while too because it does have a pretty fair amount of depth, and I was satisfied with my time with it. And number 1 is Zombie Gunship Survival. It's a game where you play a gunner in a large aircraft attempting to stop all the zombies on the ground. Now, what I'll say is this game isn't necessarily the most innovative thing you are ever going to play in your entire life. It's a top-down shooter, kind of on rails, kind of not, that has a fairly grim perspective. There's no color. You're looking at a screen projecting what's going on the ground. The only color in the game is actually on the icons of the HUD, but I think it does a good job of setting a type of atmosphere. This game is a fitting follow-up to the previous game in the series, Zombie Gunship, and is just one of those games that's kind of the sum of a lot of parts as opposed to a revolution. But when something like that is executed on the level that this is, it's typically well above the fray, and this game most certainly is. A bonus game is South Park's Phone Destroyer, which plays a lot like Clash Royale, except for from the side and with South Park characters. It does it well because that's what South Park does. What was your favorite free iOS or Android game of this month? Leave a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now would be a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter @FalconTheHero, and we'll see you next time right here on GameRanks.